Tell me what you guys think. What do you want to see for the perfect Souls game experience? Honestly, for me personally, I would want like a same concept as Dark and Darker. Like, let's say procedurally generated dungeon, but like good stuff, like not basic Bloodborne stuff, like actual good procedurally generated dungeon. Everyone gets put in the map. Same concept as, like, you know, the cookie cutter battle royale, but Dark and Darker style, where, you know, you kill other people, it's team versus team, you go for the gear, but it has like Souls combat. That would be like fucking amazing. I'd love that. That'd be great. And then you add a campaign on top of that, like just a solo campaign to get people hooked to the PvP, you know? Like you get people to play the campaign because everyone is a single player. Like most people are single players, whatever, first, and so like they'll buy the game for the campaign, they'll play it, they'll enjoy it, and then you give them an incentive in game to like try the online so that they can like have fun with that, and then you kind of recruit new players that way. That'd be great. See guys, I have the whole thing figured out. It's already solved. We've already figured that out. That sounds like a perfect game. Yeah, it sounds amazing. But I mean, we're just talking. We're just having fun. From Software should focus on a PvP only game, and maybe we'd see something like that. Honestly, I would be really open to the idea, because they've never... Actually, that's not true. I was about to say they've never done it, but they've actually done it. Believe it or not, Armored Core Verdict Day, the Armored Core that came before Armored Core 6, was actually based around PvP. And believe you me, that PvP was some of the best PvP I've ever played. It was extremely skillful and extremely competitive. Like, the skill ceiling on that game, like, is some of the highest skill ceiling I've seen in any game. And that's why I was so hyped for Armored Core 6, and why I had so much hope for the PvP, which Armored Core 6 is nothing like it, by the way. Like, the skill in Armored Core 6 is extremely low. Right now, it's like ridiculously low. Low to a point where I don't even want to play PvP, honestly. What about Elden Ring Wars, where you can also have a high group of players with you on each side? It's already kind of in the game, in the arena, but the AI is a bit too bad, honestly, for this to be... I mean, we could try to do some spirit summon battles in the arena next time. You know, next stream, guys, we should do a... Actually, the problem with that is that everyone needs to have their spirit summon fully upgraded, which... I don't even know if mine are upgraded. Where do you see them? I don't think I have any single one of them upgraded. I don't even have the Mimic. Yeah, unfortunately, it's not gonna happen. Armored Core 6 looks cool, but PvP is a meme. Dude, it really pains me because, like, KB here in chat, KB and I played Armored Core Verdict Day together. That's how KB and I met. That was like over about 10 years ago, maybe. Armored Core 5, probably, actually. But yeah, we played that for probably about a year and a half. And how it would work is you would have that's a From Software game, you know, that's the Armored Core game prior to Armored Core 6. So you had clans, a clan system built within the game. And so you'd pretty much, like, imagine that I can recruit any single one of you guys, and you guys would be part of, like, we would all be part of the same team, and our team would attack other teams, and we would set up like 4v4 versus other teams for their territories. And so, like, basically either you put a territory to defend. The advantage of putting a territory to defend is that you can set up defenses on the field, and so you have the kind of the PvE advantage, if you may, and those defenses are custom. You make them yourself, your team makes it. So you have plans that you can choose from and pick different territory layout to defend and whatever. And so the attacking team gets to attack it, but they don't have the PvE with them. And basically they have to either do the objective, which is very hard to do, or kill the entire enemy team. So the usually the play when you play against another squad and you're on the offensive side, you want to destroy at least the bigger defenses from long range before engaging, and sometimes you can get rushed while doing that. So you have to manage the defenses and the 4v4 on top of that. It was actually like insanely good, and on top of that, that's without mentioning that the gameplay itself was like extremely skillful. The way the movement was handled, you had limited turning speed. You could outplay other ACs. You could flank them, get behind them, because turning speed was limited. Flanking strategies were real. Like, it was much more similar to actual warfare strategies, like real world strategy, like World War II type strategies were actually, you know, actually effective in that game. Like, it was much more realistic, whereas like right now Armored Core 6 it's just like, you know, people flying everywhere, and it's an arcade. Like, Armored Core 6 is going for the arcade style. Not to say, like, some people actually enjoy it, which is fine. I think the PvE personally for Armored Core 6, I think is that it's actually the best PvE for any Armored Core game, and I think that's what they were going for, really. Whereas what we've been talking about, Armored Core Verdict Day, that was not designed for the PvE, that was actually designed for the PvP. And so From Software has done it. They know how to do things properly. Like, they actually did it. Problem is, that game sold like really poorly. Armored Core games have always sold like really poorly. Armored Core 6 is the exception, and the only reason it's an exception it's because it got carried on the back of Elden Ring. Because Elden Ring was such a massive success that people have literally blind faith in From Software, and so they will literally buy any game that From Software puts out. And honestly, as much as blind faith is bad, From Software is still one of the only game company right now, or game. I guess they are their own publisher in Japan, but they're one of the only studios who actually still make like good games that have good value, good gameplay, no like microtransaction bullshit and the stuff that people actually hate. So I mean, you have to give them credit where credit is due. Like, even though we like their PvP and we like the potential of their PvP, of course the focus for them is not there, so it makes sense. But yeah, for everyone else, like, the PvE is like godsend for them. So yeah, that's our little bit of a discussion about From Software and a bunch of stuff. From has solid foundation that needs finessing through QA, through creative designing to the last minute and then releasing, but not quite functional. To be fair, I think From Software games from a PvE perspective are actually quite well like tested. Like, for instance, like, if I look at every single game that come out, especially open world, like the amount of bugs and like issues and like problems that From Software games have PvE related at launch is actually extremely low compared to other titles, I feel, or I find, sorry. Whereas the PvP on the other hand is exactly like you say, Goldie. Like, PvP on the other hand is like not tested whatsoever, and you get like bunch of invisible shit, like ridiculously stupid scaling, like design decisions that make no sense, like spawning in the middle of a fucking shithole where you get stuck and just die instantly, like, you know, spawning like everywhere but next to the host. Like, the amount of problems Elden Ring had at launch, PvP-wise, was actually insane. It was daunting. I think a lot of people left and never came back. That's how bad it was. Japanese studios pay little attention to brain rot Western trends. Downside to that is only a Japan server and everyone else server. Honestly, it's like, I feel like From Software, like, they have, like, I think they have like creative freedom over whatever they want to make, and that's definitely a very good thing. But I also think that within the studio itself, they also kind of share the same philosophy, in a sense that they also give creative freedom to their workers. So pretty much like they give the you know, whoever is in charge of like making the weapon, well, You got that one guy that's in charge of like making the moveset for the halberd. That guy is like very like knowledgeable veteran, whatever. Makes a weapon that's like really well balanced. And then you get that other guy that's in charge of like making, I don't know, fucking spear. And then like you end up with a situation where they both had creative freedom to make whatever they wanted, but there wasn't like someone overhead to tell them, you know, that might be a bit over the top. Like, you can't do this. Same thing with DHS at launch. Like, you know, if there was any sort of like structure within the studio, where someone who actually knew or understood how these mechanics affect gameplay, Bloodhound Step would have never been like that at launch. Like for instance, if I was to QA test Elden Ring, this is literally the first thing that I would have pointed out to change, you know, or like most of us, that's like one of the first thing. So stuff like that. It's like there's some good and some bad. Like the good for that aspect is that with creative freedom like that, is that you get a lot of things that are original that you don't really see in other games. Like the fact that you have so many different weapons, so many different attacks, so many different Ash of War, that's also a product of giving those devs that sort of freedom. Otherwise you would not have that much variety here. So it is one of their quality, even if we find it annoying from time to time. So the problem is, in a nutshell, Miyazaki being a lore nerd, not caring about PvP or balance at all. Honestly, I don't think Miyazaki is responsible. Well, I don't actually know, but I would doubt that he's responsible for like all the gameplay stuff, because clearly Miyazaki is the creative person behind everything that's story related. And as far as I'm concerned, everyone loved the lore and that sort of stuff in Souls games, so I don't actually think the problem is Miyazaki himself. It's probably that I think it's the lack of personnel that are knowledgeable about PvP. So there would need to be some sort of higher up that is very knowledgeable about PvP, that can sort of like that can make like final decisions as to what needs to be changed or not. Like, so you pretty much, you make things like work the same way, you give the same creative freedom to the team, but that last person at the end is like basically, no, you can't do this, this is good, no, you can't do that, and basically just weeds out the stuff that's like completely unbalanced. Basically what the community right now has been doing for all these patches, which is how they approach things. They listen to the community, which is, honestly, it's not that bad when you think about it. It's just that because they are a Japanese studio, we don't have a direct line of communication with them. It's not the greatest way to handle things, but you know, we've got to 1.10 so far. Game got much better, so at least that's that. Generally speaking, you do like that management strategy. I do too, honestly, and I think that's why From Software is like standing out as like one of the better game studios. I think that's partly why, because they have that creative freedom. Their parent company, I don't think, asked them to do anything, because there is no like, From Software games are like extremely generous product. Like in a product sense, the amount of value you get in their game is actually insane. Like them and say Rockstar, like Rockstar games, you can shit as much as you want on their monetization scheme for online, which is extremely scummy, but when the PvE launches, there's like an insane amount of value in a Rockstar game. Same thing for a game like Elden Ring, and Elden Ring doesn't have any sort of like online monetization, like microtransaction, all that stuff. Like we're gonna have an expansion and that's it. So like they're extremely generous in a business sense with their product. Like their games are very high value games for the price. There's a lot of content, a lot of hours of gaming in their game, and lots of replayability through the online and the new game plus and all that stuff. Even though a few things could make things a lot better, like a lot more enjoyable for us, like, you know, just having 6 players, you know, make it so that it's 3v2, my game could last many more years, you know? But yeah. Yeah, people think I only shit on From Software. Like, I definitely a love and hate relationship, but it only exists because I actually care. I actually care about their studio and what they're doing. I want the best for all of us and for the game. Like, I definitely, like, I'm really passionate about their game. I have definitely fell in love with Dark Souls 3, and I fell in love with pretty much almost all of the games that they made. And I think it's worth to give a bit of pushback to get a better outcome, which is what we've been doing since this game has been out. Now we've been a bit more no, I've been more quiet about it because, like, right now there's not like right now I'd say eye armor is problematic, but it's not like problematic to an extent where the game falls apart. Like, right now the game is in the best state it's ever been, and so I'll just let other people scream at this point and ask for nerfs for stuff, because I think at this point I've done my part, like pretty much complaining about like all the major issues since the game came out, from like Bloodhound Step to like whatever, you know. Alright guys, I think we're gonna end it here. And it was fun. I also like chilling like that, just talking and doing nothing. It's very relaxing for me.